And we have had people who are moving from one church to another because they are seeking a place where they can be paid.
Yes. Why do we have some musicians, instrumentalists running away from one church going to another? Why do they run away?
Yes.
Because they are seeking
Payment.
payment.
Okay.
We want to call it payment. Even though you want to call it appreciation,
Yes.
we want to call it's payment for their work done.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to OGN Show, a show that brings you wisdom. Yani, we listen to your story and we bring you wisdom, and that's why we say OGN brings you wisdom for life. My name is Anthony Elam, and today I have a very big question. And my question is, should musician in church be paid? That's a question. And I know as I ask that question, many of you will be asking, why am I asking this question? This is a very controversial topic that has been there for a long time. Should worship members, should people serving at the altar be paid? This is a very complex and controversial topic. We have had different servants of God and different ministers bringing in their perspective about this. But this question has never been answered well and has been never been solved. The argument still goes on and on. And even as we tackle this topic today, I know the argument is still there. And someone will argue with us and say, why are you talking about it? Why are you even bringing it up? Because people don't want to talk about it. And to help us delve into that, today I'm hosting the host of the show. And this is none other than my brother David Kefa. He is a gospel musician, he's a director, a CEO of Neo Track Media. And today he's seated on the other end of the show. Karibu sana, my brother.
Yeah.
Yes, karibu sana.
Today you're hosting me.
I host you on your show. Yes, I host you on your show.
Yeah, Kiswahili wanasema mwerevu ajinyonge.
Mwerevu ajinyonge.
Yes.
Na najua kwamba sometimes seated on the other end.
Yeah.
It feels like a driver being driven by a driver.
So I'll be telling you, no, usiende hapa.
Hiyo gari punguza, hiyo clutch.
Unaenda speed sana.
Yes. Karibu sana on the show.
Thank you.
I have seen you host people here.
Yes.
Servants of God, musicians,
yes,
and people in different capacity. But today you are seated on the other end. How does it feel?
It feels good. It feels good because I think I also have a voice. Yes. So on matters, on issues.
Yes.
And today I'm also excited that I can also just add my voice on some topics that are very important.
Yes.
And of course, we are discussing about whether or not to pay church musicians.
Yes.
It's a controversial topic, and I think it's important we give our wisdom on it.
Yes.
We let people know what we also just share our thoughts.
Okay.
Yes.
If you're there and you're watching this show for the first time, I will encourage you to come down there in the comment section and ask any question. You can also share this show to your friends. If you're watching this show for the first time, share the link. You can also follow us on our social media. Right away, Neo Track Media. This is where the show is happening. And every week we get to drop a show here. We get to drop you some good content, nice content that will educate you and also entertain you at the same time. And I believe that even today, you're going to get all this package together. And above all, we believe that OGN brings you wisdom for life.
Wisdom for life.
You get something for life.
Yes.
Pastor, let me say pastor, let me say director, let me say gospel musician. And many people have come here and they call you pastor.
Yeah, of course.
And allow me to say that many other times, churches have that person who is called pastor, praise and worship pastor.
Yeah.
We have music director.
Yes.
We have praise and worship leaders.
Yes.
Depending with the church you are in.
Yes.
Just define to us, what do we mean by praise and worship pastor? Is it the same as director? Is it the same as worship leader?
Yes. Now, I'm David Kefa, of course, as you have heard, and I am a pastor. I love pastoral ministry.
Yes.
And I can accept that. I'm Pastor David Kefa. It's okay to put it that way. I'm also a music director. Okay? And music in church is really a topic that is supposed, we need to bring it out in a way that people can understand.
Okay.
To just answer your question, because I know we'll be getting deeper into this, we have departments in churches.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So worship team is one of the departments, and because it's a department that is just like other departments, the worship team and pastoral is there are two departments that really work together.
Yeah.
So it's normally wise to have a worship pastor being in charge as the leader,
Yes.
empowering the team in terms of spiritual nourishment. We have cases where members of the worship team are not spiritual, that they are still in the process of learning, growing into church matters.
Okay.
Because you don't just sing in church, you also must believe in God. You must grow in the godly word and godly ways. So a worship pastor is there to help the worship team members grow into the things of God.
So you mean there's recruitment that happens, like there are levels you talked about. Someone has not grown to a certain level.
Yes.
But now they are not able to join, or they can be able to join.
No.
Do we have standards like now we would be pastor? How do we say this is a pastor for now, or a leader for
the worship pastor
worship
position?
Yes.
Yeah. In terms of the worship pastor position, because there is a senior pastor in any given church.
Yes.
So the senior pastor is the one who must appoint the worship pastor who can be in charge of a given team. In some cases, some churches don't have a worship pastor, which means it is their senior pastor who oversees the members in terms of spiritual nourishment. But you must differentiate between worship pastor and music director.
Okay.
Because
they different?
Yes, they are different. Because some worship pastors are not, they are musicians, but they cannot direct music.
Okay.
Yeah, because directing music is a profession.
Do you know why I ask you this question?
Yes.
Because we have churches, or we have places where a worship, there's a music director.
Yes.
The music director can identify that this person has a talent.
Exactly.
This person is able to join. But the third person called now a pastor.
Yes.
Who will say no, this person cannot. And that's why I asked, what is the difference between all these people? Because who gets to do what and who is
Yes,
what?
because I realized from your question, you're mentioning three people here. We have the worship pastor,
leader, worship director,
and the members,
pastors and members,
and the members of the worship team.
Yes.
You know, a church being a church, it welcomes anybody who can accept to be a member of a church. Okay, let's start it from there.
A member of the church.
Of any given church, right? Yes. Now, once you have members in church, these members come up and say that I am, because you just don't come in church and then someone is done and then you disappear. We come also to fellowship. So fellowshipping means that we identify you are good in a certain place, in a certain position, you are talented in a certain way. So that is why we have departments, men's department, women departments doing their things. We have youth departments because of the ages. And then we have other professions also in churches, knowing that maybe you are good at something and therefore you can be able to perform a certain duty like ushering, hospitality in those departments. Okay? So now from those members in church, we get worship team members. So these members who join the worship team, some of them can be at a very good level in terms of salvation. Maybe they are saved and they have grown in the things of God. Because also understanding godly ways is not a one-time thing, it's a process. So through that, you get members in a worship team.
Okay, the reason why I bring that question is,
yes,
are these people recruited into the worship
yes,
or the music department?
Yes.
or these people voluntarily decides to join?
Now, in church, we don't recruit
Okay.
per se.
Mhm.
You wouldn't put it like recruiting.
Okay.
Because mostly serving in church, in many times, people will volunteer to be part of a department.
Okay.
Volunteer to be part of a department. So in terms of worship ministry, someone will feel like, I love music.
I want to be there.
So I want to be in this music department or worship team department.
I love instruments. I want to be.
I want to be an instrumentalist.
Okay.
Yes.
So the reason why I'm bringing all this is to open up our mind and now get to understand
Yes.
our question and get to answer this question, because
True.
the question is, should musicians, most we have narrowed down to musicians.
Yes.
And when we're talking about musician, we're talking about the instrumentalists, we're talking about the technicians,
Yes.
we're talking about the singers.
We have the singers, instrumentalists, we have sound technicians, and we have musicians, vocalists or singers, sound technicians, and instrumentalists. Yes, those three.
Okay.
I think so. I don't know if there is another one I've forgotten, but let's go with those three.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Pastor Kefa, let
Yes.
me refer to you as Pastor Kefa.
Yes.
As you put it,
Yeah.
I was asking this question about recruitment. I was asking this question about voluntarily.
Yeah.
To just bring us to this topic. Should musicians be paid or not? According to you, should they be paid?
Yeah,
and who should be paid?
Yeah, it's a broad. It has many perspectives in it.
Yes.
Because if I answer directly, any professional musician who takes musician for a profession, just like any other profession, we have doctors, we have engineers in different aspects. They are paid for their job.
Okay.
Why are they being paid? They have studied for it. They have invested in themselves. Okay? Yes. So they come here to be able to exercise their talents and their knowledge, because they have been trained, because they are professions. So out of that, they require, it is important that they be paid from a professional point of view. That is, first of all, if I have to answer it precisely as you've asked.
Yes.
But now, in the church context, because we are dealing from a broad perspective, where we are dealing with many people coming with different interests. So we are dealing with a worship team where, number one, we have people, a number of members. Let's talk, for example, the vocalists, who are maybe they are not professions. They have not gone through training, but they feel they are talented and they love to sing. And maybe there is a musician, a professional musician within the church, who can also attest that this person is talented. The way I hear they sing, maybe amemsikiliza sauti, they can hear the way they sing and they can tell that this is a musician. So these people, they volunteer, which means they don't come from a point of seeking payment. But then we have musicians who come on board as worship team members, but they are professions. And therefore they come saying that because this is my profession. For instance, I'm a music director, and I have been given a position in this church as a music director. I can argue my case and say that because this is my profession, I don't have any other mode of way of earning. This is my way of earning and sustaining my life. I have invested in this, I've gone to school for this. So I need you to pay me a certain amount of money for me to be able to perform this job.
So the point that you're bringing us here is we have people who are professional musicians.
Yes.
And as they come in to bring their services, they are coming in as professional.
Yes.
But the question here I'm asking myself, even as you are continuing,
yes,
we talked about people who voluntarily join. So you can be a professional, but you have voluntarily joined a church
yes,
as a member.
yeah,
Then you see a weakness in the music team,
Yeah,
then you decide to come in.
exactly.
Now, who is to be paid here? Because this question has been there, and some pastors, some leaders have said musicians should be paid. So who is to be paid? Should we pay everybody that just comes in and joins the music team?
Maybe the first question we must ask first is when a pastor has a church,
Yes.
um, does the church have structures?
Yes,
Okay,
every church should have.
every church has structures.
It
So
should.
one of the structure should be that we have a music department. Okay.
Okay, that's according to you.
Yes, that's according to me.
According to you. Yeah.
Yes, because when you don't have that in place, then you are opening a space for issues to come in which you can't handle from a professional point. Most of the issues that happen in churches and ignite this conversation of whether to pay musicians or not is when we leave some places hanging. That a musician comes in church and we just assume that this person has come in church. And these musicians also, they don't come to speak out their heart, their voice, and say that this is what I want as a musician. If you come, you are a member of my church, and you see there is a gap somewhere, and you think you can fill it in terms of music,
Yes.
but you think you can't volunteer, you must come and be open and just tell me, Pastor Kefa, I feel there is an opening here and I am trained for it and I can be able to help. And my help will come in terms of, because this is my profession and my work, I want to know if I can be able to do this and be able to be paid for it.
But you see, many churches and
Yes.
many leaders that are leading church institutions
Yes.
will bring this point, and many of them have brought this point of when you come in church, one, you're coming to worship God. One, you're
Yes.
coming to worship God.
Mhm.
Two, whatever you do in church, you're doing it for God.
Yes.
Like if you're serving in music ministry, you're serving God. You're doing it as a service to
To
God.
God, yes.
If you're doing anything, cleaning the church or even just coming to spend time in church, you're doing it for the glory of God.
Yes.
So the question is, at what time should we bring in this thing about payment? And is the payment salary? What is this payment we're talking about?
Now, let's first look at why and how you should be ministering unto God.
Yes.
Try to separate the position of working or doing something for God,
Yes.
and also being able to seek an earning from something in church.
Okay.
Okay? This is not outside church, it is
In church.
in
We're
church.
talking about church here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There is history of people serving on the altars
Okay.
in the Bible.
Okay.
Okay?
True.
In the Old Testament, we have the Levites. The Levites from the family of Levi. Levi was a son of Jacob. Okay?
Yes.
The Levites were people who were chosen to work together with the priests in the Old Testament to help the priests be able to fulfill their duties. Okay? So these people were set aside. We want to go back in the times of the Old Testament. These people were set aside to work on the altar. So there was no any other job they were supposed to do. Their only work to do was their work to do their only work was to serve on the altars. So the Bible defines in that time that because they don't have any other place, they get the earning. They are human beings. They must eat, they must sleep, they must live well. So because they have been selected to work on the altars, therefore the same place they are working on, the altars, the same altar that they work on must feed them. So in other words, they must get their daily bread from the altar.
Okay.
And again, in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 9, is it chapter 9? Yes, chapter 9, yes. The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 9, it talks about service in church and really asks a number of questions. This is Paul who was asking many questions at that time.
Yes.
And there was also the same conversation we are having now. It was also a conversation at that time. Paul was answering as to why he should be qualified to eat from the altars,
From the altar.
to get to be able to feed from the altars.
Okay.
So he was trying to answer that question. So it's not a conversation that has started now. It has started before. So in the Old Testament, it was official that any person serving at the altars must eat from the altar. And now, how does the altar get food to give to the priests and the Levites? The members the people who are coming to worship in church, they were supposed to give their tithes,
Yes.
their first fruits, their offerings, so that
That
they
is
are
where they get the payment.
exactly.
Okay.
So now, as to how much it was supposed, I think the Bible in the Old Testament doesn't define how much, but it just it is specific that they were supposed to eat from the altars.
So biblically,
Yes.
like you're quoting the Bible.
Yeah.
Biblically, you say there was a certain compensation or something of like paying them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now,
Yes.
The point you're bringing looks to me like there's something like full time. Like these people are
Now,
full time
yes,
working.
yes,
So,
yes.
What if someone is not full time?
Now that's where we wanted to come to.
Yes.
Times have changed.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
In the Old Testament, people worked full time. Now, the times of Paul, things had started changing. And now he argues that I think you've heard the statement where the men of God should also be tent makers.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Meaning that you may not be required to depend on getting your daily bread from the altars alone. Okay. You can still serve, you can be a pastor, you can be a musician, you can serve on the altars, but still be able to work out there and be able to sustain your life. Okay. That is now what Paul was arguing. Yeah, let me put it that way. Now, in our context now, again from the time of Paul up to now we are in 2025, many things, many years and many things have changed. There's a lot of technology, there's a lot of things changing. Now, I want you to hear me clearly.
Okay.
In today's church, with emergence of very detailed kind of music, because in the Old Testament, David was just playing a harp. It's called a harp, right? Kale sijui kama inaitwa ni kwa Kiswahili, a harp. But in today's world, the setup of live music is very complex. You have a lot of instruments coming together to make very good music. Now, for you to put all these things together to come up with very good music, you are dealing with not one person, many people. You have, for any complete band, you have a bassist, you have a drummer, those are two people. Maybe you have two pianists, those are four people. You have a lead guitar, that's five people. Maybe you have a saxophone or trumpet, that is six. You have, yes, you have a drum set. So just before even you, all those are instrumental. Before even you come to vocalists, lead singers, all these instrumental, they could be coming to around 6, 7, 8 to 10.
We have a technician there.
And we have a sound engineer. Yes. And one thing I must specifically mention on this platform yes, is that pastors should learn to invest in music directors and sound engineers. Because this argument, this conversation we are having right now, it's because many pastors want good music.
Mm-hmm.
But because they are not musicians, they don't know what it takes to bring about good music. And now they want good music, but they have not, I'm looking for the right word. They have not looked for the right equipment.
Mm-hmm.
They have not built their capacity. Build their capacity in terms of sound and people and workforce. Okay? So now, Anthony, let me ask you a question. With this setup that I'm explaining to you, you are dealing with close to 15 people. You want to tell me these 15 people, they will be working for free,
Okay.
doing a very professional job. Okay?
Let me take you back a little bit because now you have taken us very far.
Yes.
Someone will talk about that, will argue that point, will say, this is a mega church you're talking about. What about this church that is just beginning? This church where the pastor will say,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even also paid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not paid. I just come preach and go. Whatever I receive from the members is appreciation or something.
Yes.
The other money that comes
Yeah.
takes care of the bills, church bills, and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have enough to even pay them.
Well, that's why I started. I think there's a point I said.
Yes.
This is what I said, that every pastor who starts a church, they know what they're trying to build. And that's why we mentioned of a structure. Now, the setup I have explained earlier could be working for bigger churches, call them mega churches.
Yes.
But we have pastors with their, in quotes, small churches.
Yes.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Even though they are small,
Mm-hmm.
they still want something good.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, true.
Because you can still be a small church, but doing something very good. Don't do very kind of mediocre kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
Music that is, someone listens to this kind of music and they don't feel like they want to come to your church.
Mm-hmm.
I have had instances some many years ago when we did music in some churches and people came in church and they said, I have come because I heard the music.
Okay.
You hear that statement?
Yes.
They have come because they heard what? Music. It means that the pastor, the leadership of this church has invested in ensuring that we have good music. So even though a church is small with only a piano,
Yes.
a keyboard, and two speakers, and a mixer and a power amp, when you have a good pianist with very good vocalists,
Yes.
you can make good music.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we have to start from somewhere, but agree that we want good music. And that good music, even from small churches to mega churches, you can invest into making sure you have good music.
But we might be talking about good music.
Yes.
But according to my interaction with many churches, I feel like there's no structure. There's no structure that can even enable that.
Exactly.
Because you find that even those pastors don't recognize the music department. When they stand up after the music, the music team has left the altar,
Yes.
you see them that saying that we're now getting into serious things. We're done with the we're done with music.
Yeah, it's serious stuff, which means the music they were doing was not serious. Let me tell you,
Yes.
We must, every pastor, this is to every pastor listening to this,
Okay.
You must appreciate and value music for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a pastor who is not talented, who doesn't have whom music doesn't appeal to so much.
Mm-hmm.
We have pastors whom music doesn't appeal to so much. Okay. Pastors that can preach without music, whether we have music or no music, they will preach and it's fine. If you are that kind of a pastor, I will want to encourage you that you must have a music department that you have allowed a competent, knowledgeable musician who can help you into directing both sound, instruments, and vocalists. Okay?
Can that be done by volunteers?
Yes, it can. And that's why I'm saying that it is important to pay musicians in church. But we also have musicians who are willing to volunteer.
Because this thing of payment might also interfere with those who want to just voluntarily do it.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, do you know why?
Someone will argue that if we, even mega church, if we start paying musicians, that will make this small church not to grow, because they will leave small churches to come to bigger churches. And we have had people who are moving from one church to another because they are seeking a place where they can be paid.
Yes. Why do we have some musicians, instrumentalists running away from one church going to another? Why do they run away?
Yes.
Because they are seeking
Payment.
payment.
Okay.
We want to call it payment. Even though you want to call it appreciation,
Yes.
we want to call it's payment for their work done. Okay. You know, sometimes we don't have to make things, we use words to make things look different.
But we have languages according to different places, because
yes,
there's no why we call it appreciation, or we are calling it maybe appreciation.
Yeah.
Or compensation might not amount to how much you're supposed to be paid as a professional.
Now let me give you my understanding.
Yes.
Appreciation is when I come and tell you that, you know what, I am not willing to charge you for this service.
Okay.
Okay? But you choose, even though I am not charging you,
yes,
you decide that, you know what, even though you're not charging me, I don't wish for you to just live that way.
Yes.
I must.
And that is what is being done in churches.
Yes. Now, is there proper communication between the church and these musicians or instrumentalists? Because what I feel there is a problem, there is a gap, is communication. You get a pastor. Let me give you 2-3 scenarios.
Yes.
One scenario is this: a pastor goes looking for a pianist.
Okay.
And then they tell this pianist that in my church I don't have a pianist, I need a pianist. I have these services running from maybe on Wednesday, we have keshas, and then we have practice on Saturday, and then we have a service on Sunday.
You come.
I want you to be there available during this time. And then I will be appreciating you with this amount of money. Okay? Okay? That is the agreement. Yes. This is the pastor telling this person.
They have given a figure.
They have given a figure. Okay. Maybe even this instrumentalist comes and tells this pastor, reverend, bishop, that I don't think I can work with this amount of money. This is the best I can work with. So they argue, they bargain, and then they agree on something. But now, from the time they start, now this guy has agreed, and the pastor has also agreed. They have reached an understanding. Okay. Okay. But maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month down the line, issues starts to crop up. Oh, today, you know what? There was not enough offering, yes. And as you know, things are a bit tight. We don't have enough money to handle 1, 2, 3. You'll have to excuse us for today, or you will have to wait for a certain period of time. Yes. You see? So now that starts to demoralize this person.
Just a moment.
Yes.
We continue, and we are receiving your questions. We are receiving your contribution towards the show. And Kefa.
Yes.
You brought up a point where you say this person has called so and so. Come. Let's work. Let's do this. I'll give you this amount of money. And later they say, I didn't receive enough offering, enough to pay you.
Yes.
And they end up not paying, or they end up giving you something very little.
Yes.
And you feel like, no. So are we talking of people not honoring their pledges, or people not being just honest enough to do what they agreed on? Or we're talking about something else?
Now, what makes most musicians and instrumentalists run away from churches normally is not that they are not being paid.
Okay.
It is the dishonesty.
Honesty.
I would want to just bring it as it is.
So people are not honest,
Yes.
especially leaders, church leaders.
Yes,
Okay.
it's dishonesty.
Okay.
Because I am human, you are human. We know that sometimes things can go the other way.
Yes.
If you come and tell me, you know what, we have an agreement that we are supposed to handle 1, 2, 3, but because of this, you come honestly to tell me that this is how things are, and this can't work out. Uh, you can give me some time, and we agree. And you stick to your word that probably if you can't give me whatever we agreed on today on Sunday, by Wednesday you will have sorted me out. I will be good. I'm talking about these details, and I want you to understand this.
Yes.
The people we are, I pray for wisdom to get the right words.
Okay.
The pastors and bishops and leaders we are talking about who find themselves in these places, sometimes the impression to the instrumentalists is different.
Okay.
In this way, that you can't pay me 1,500, but you on the other side, you are good. You are driving your big machine.
Yes, when the
And
meeting ends,
yes,
you left the meeting.
your children are
with your
okay.
vehicle, and I wasn't there.
Yes.
I didn't have even transport to go to my place.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the argument is not, it's not that it's not that there is no money.
Okay.
It is the impression on this musician that he doesn't deserve to be taken care of at that time, because there are more important things to be taken care of that needs urgent handling.
But
I don't know if you are getting my point.
Yes, but one person will argue that maybe you're being over expectant of what you should receive from the altar, because at the same time you're serving God.
Yeah, what I'm saying
Yes.
is there an agreement from there?
Okay, if there's an
First point.
agreement,
That's where we
makes
started.
sense.
That's where we started.
Yeah.
I told you the first scenario. I'm going to the second and third scenario.
Yes.
I told you the first scenario is when a pastor approaches
An instrumentalist or a
an
musician.
instrumentalist or a musician,
Yes.
and they have an
An
agreement.
agreement.
I'll give you the same example from
Yes.
a different institution. You are working for a company. Okay?
Okay.
These instrumentalists, we are able to separate issues. I am a pianist myself, I'm a lead singer myself, I'm a music director myself. So I'm able to separate issues. I can separate between worship and work.
Okay.
So to me as a music director, I can worship at the same time working with my instrument. I worship God knowing that as I worship God, at the end of this service, I will get my dues for the work I have done. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
And that's why I want to give you this example. You are working for a different, some company somewhere, it's not a church. Your job description is that you do 1, 2, 3. And then at the end of the day or at the end of the month, you get your salary. And then you don't get your salary for how many months? 3 months. What will you do?
You can leave the company.
You will either raise a complaint or leave the company. Now that is where I'm trying to bring this issue from. That we should not look at instrumentalists and musicians as people who, when they argue their case in terms of small monies that they ask for, it becomes an issue of, oh, you are charging for worship. That is now taking that issue out of context. This is someone, and let me tell you something, Anthony. Any professional musician has invested in their art for a long time. Just like a doctor has gone in school for how many years? I think 6. Is it 6 or 8?
7 years.
For them to really qualify to be a doctor.
Okay.
We have musicians who have invested in their art of music, and some of them have gone to school for them to practice music. So when a pastor, a bishop, a church has a musician who has practiced music for a profession, they must thank God that they have such a person.
But many people that have raised this complaint
Yes.
about not being paid, many of them they cannot show an agreement of it.
Yes, that is now where I'm also
Sort of
arguing
an
that
agreement.
sometimes also let us also not push pastors and churches to the wall so much. It's because these musicians didn't come straightforward
Yes.
and open enough to just speak out and tell pastors, you know what, my expectation is that as I do this, I am expecting this. Let there be an agreement from the beginning. Yeah. So that we don't come with other issues. I had given you the first scenario where a pastor and an instrumentalist or a musician agree. Okay? And then along the way, one of the parties fail. So we have issues. We also have, on the same scenario, we also have cases where a church or a pastor is paying the instrumentalist very well, but the instrumentalist is not fulfilling their mandate or their duty. That's also a separate issue. Let me give you scenario number 2, where a musician comes in church, but they have accepted to be part of the worship team department, and they have openly agreed that I am not here for salary, I'm not here for money, I am ministering with the gift and talent I have voluntarily. They are volunteering for the service they give to the church. That is a different perspective. So you can have a pastor, a man of God, decide that I will appreciate this person for what they do. Okay? But even if they don't appreciate them, this guy or this lady, this musician has no problem, because for them, they have volunteered. The issue I am raising here is that there should be proper communication.
But how can we get this proper communication when even the church structures are not working? Many of the church structures are not working.
Yes.
Because when we can't talk about departments when we don't have even a structure that is operating. Because we find that a pastor is there, he's a technician, he's the pastor, he's the music leader.
Now,
Even if you are a leader there, he is the music leader.
Now, sadly,
How can we pay you now?
Yes.
Because the pastor, the bishop,
Yes.
is the same person who is directing even you guys how to do it.
Yeah. Now, sadly, that is a case for many small churches in quarter. Sadly, that is the case for many churches. Many churches out here don't have proper structures. And I would honestly say, without being unfair to anybody, uh, I will honestly say that when there is no proper structures, sometimes we mess people, we use people, and we manipulate people. Okay? We can easily mess people, we can easily use people, and we can manipulate people when there are no proper structures. When there are proper structures, there is accountability. Okay? If you call me today and tell me, David Kefa, you're a musician, and we are agreeing on this day that we want to facilitate you to do your practice your music in our church under this agreement. Okay?
Yes.
If I fail on my part, you can come back and say, you see, we agreed. It is, you have failed. But now, when there are no structures, there is no accountability. So the pastor is seated somewhere, assuming that this instrumentalist should be coming to my church every Sunday. Yet, he has not taken a step to approach this instrumentalist to ask him, what is your name? How are you? What do you do? Where do you stay? Do you have a job? How do you sustain your life? So how do you wish to work with us in the state that you are in, so that we know how to work together with you?
So how can we solve this issue? Because this issue is bringing us to a point where we find that we cannot even talk about payment. Can we talk about payment if there's no working structure? No.
The starting point is that every pastor must agree to have a structure. That is the first, the starting point.
Yes.
We must put it clearly that every pastor must agree to have a proper structure that helps to run.
And people should be honest.
Yes, and then once we have this structure, let us have people being honest. Okay, can I give you an example? Let me give you a very short example. We have agreed with you. You pay me 2,000 per Sunday.
Yes.
In many cases, some in small churches, musicians will charge between 1,500, 2,000 to 3,000 shillings per Sunday. Now, I depend on this music that I do for my livelihood, at least at the moment. So I charge you how much? 2,000 shillings. And then I am staying in a house that I pay rent. Some of these young people who come and they're doing music, some of them, they are at a place, maybe they are not very stable. So they have a small house, they're paying rent. Maybe they have to take care of themselves, maybe food here and there, clothing. And now they have not paid rent and they come to church on Sunday, they do their music and you don't pay them. What happens?
They will not be effective.
Of course, they won't be effective. One, mentally, psychologically, they won't be effective. Can I tell you what the expectations of any church in terms of music ministry is that if you agree to be part of a worship team,
yes,
you must practice songs. You must be available for practice. And another thing, you must have uniform for the cases where worship teams do uniforms. Now, these uniforms are not bought by the church.
They're bought by
the individuals. Yes, because it's their own clothes. So they agree that this Sunday we are doing red and black, and you're told you must come with red and black. Now, these instrumentalists whom you are not paying, supposed to come with uniform.
Let's wind up. I know this topic is wide and we might not solve it because people have started it, they never solved it, and we might not end up solving it.
Yes.
Just put it in perspective to us. Now, how do we differentiate? If we start paying, because this is a question that many will ask, if we start paying musicians or people who are serving on the altar, how will we differentiate between spiritual offering to God and the service that is being offered because of payment? How do we differentiate that? Because some people will say this person is doing well because they were paid, or they are behaving in a certain way because they were not paid well.
Yes.
Now we'll be having contracts to even now ensure that if we paid you, you're supposed to be here at this time, you're supposed to do it in this way.
You know, it will beg the question, is it your work to differentiate whether they are ministering to God or not? Because my ministry to God it concerns me. You can't evaluate. If I sing a song right now,
yes,
I sing a song right now, you are Alpha and Omega, okay? You're not paying me. Will you say now, because you're not paying me and I've sung that song, I am ministering to God? And if I sing the same song, but out of, we have an agreement that every time I'm ministering in your church, you pay me 2,000. And I sing the same song, but because you're paying me 2,000 shillings, will you now say that, no, this person is not ministering unto God, it's just because of money?
Now, gifts. Now, there's this scripture that many servants of God uses.
Yes.
The scripture that says, you are given free. You are given free. So you should do it, give it out freely. Freely you give it out.
Yes.
Now, how do we say, now this person is doing it freely for God? As this person being paid, that's why they are doing it.
I think it's personal. For me, how I will look at it, let me explain to you, it's more personal, okay? I exercise my gift freely to God.
Okay. And now,
to God,
which is your gift now?
which is my gift. Yes.
When you're coming to church and you're joining the music team, which is your gift?
Music. Music is my gift, right?
You're gifted in music.
Yeah, I'm gifted in music.
Okay.
So
as God has given you a gift freely.
Yes.
And the pastor said you're supposed to offer it freely.
Yes. And then
God,
again,
as service to God.
True. That's why I want to define.
Are you expected to be paid?
That's why I want to define those two faces that we must look at.
Yes.
Remember, again, the same Bible says that your gift will place you before kings. Okay? Yes. Your gift will do what? Will place you before. In other words, your gift will bring benefit to you. Because if you go to kings, yes, kings will reward you for the good that you are doing through.
So that's a different aspect of it.
Exactly. Okay. That's what I'm saying. As you pay me, remember the payment you are making to me in that moment, it is because of the structure the church has set that this is the quality and the level of the music that we want, which I have studied for. Okay. Are you getting? Okay. You need a sound engineer, right?
Yes.
A sound engineer. Yes. Many churches, vitu zinachomeka makanisani hapo because they don't employ sound engineers.
And the pastor goes and prays to God. God brings somebody, and then you come along.
Exactly. And then you come along.
Now you come along. So is the pastor supposed to pay you or God?
That's what I still insist on the same thing. If a sound engineer comes and decides that, you know what, I have a job, I work.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So in this case, because I'm a member in your church and I have my personal other things that I do, I am not willing to charge the church for my job as a sound engineer. But maybe this person is employed somewhere in a TV station and there are sound engineers in that place. You see, another reason why churches employ musicians, sound engineers, is so that they can take full control of availability of these people. Okay. Let me tell you, we have churches that are doing well, call them mega churches. They have employed musicians. They have employed music directors. They have employed sound engineers on permanent basis. Is it wrong?
It's not wrong.
It's not wrong. Yes. So that for people who I want to put it this clearly, for people who sometimes argue that it is wrong, maybe they are trying to tell us that it is them who can't afford the services.
So if we say they should not be paid, it means that we are not able to afford.
Yes, I can assume that way, because the conversation should not be around paying or not paying.
Okay.
The conversation should be around a specific separate individual with their own requirements of how they do things, and we should not judge them for them having a stand on how they do things. Because if mega churches are paying people, how many we have people who run to mega churches because of the excellence and the quality of how they do things. And therefore, if small churches down here who wants to have very good, excellent stuff going on in their church, employ qualified people and pay them for their services, it is not wrong.
Wow.
Yes.
I know we can't end this, and we might not finish it. So if you have any question you want us to continue with the topic, you want us to engage in more conversation about this. If you are a pastor there, you've been blessed, say I'm blessed.
Yes.
If you are a musician and you are there and you have been touched by this and you would like to bring your views, you bring in your views. We allow you to bring in your views. You can check our detail there on our YouTube. That's New Track, or you can also check our Facebook, New Track. And bring in your views. We will be able to take in your views, and our director here, who's just giving his perspective.
Yes.
Remember, it is his perspective,
yes,
of how things are supposed to be and how they should be. But looking at the facts that I'm seeing here is that there's communication problem.
Yeah.
And also we need to, as a church, to bring us to a level where maybe to have more knowledge about these things that we're talking about when we're talking about equipments and sounds and musicians and professionalism and volunteer. What is this about?
Yes.
And I think we should also be honest. According to Pastor Kefa,
Yes.
there's dishonesty in the church. There's
Yes.
dishonesty in the leadership. So we should be honest.
Exactly.
Just wind up maybe your finishing words before we conclude.
Yeah. I can have this as my parting shot. That this is a very important discussion to have. Um, precisely in simple and in few words, let us empower musicians in church. Let us accept to facilitate them. If you have a musician in your church who has nothing else to do, but they depend fully on their art and on their talents, find it in your heart as a pastor, as a bishop, as a leader, to be there for them, to hold their hands, to appreciate them, or to pay them, or whichever the agreement. For the cases where instrumentalists, musicians, and workers have come in terms of a working contract, let's just fulfill the end of a bargain so that we all work in harmony. There is no one who is supposed to suffer in worship and in praise. I have had cases of people who served in churches and went home to find padlocks on their doors because they have not paid rent. And such should not be happening in our churches today. I encourage pastors today that it is important for you to create a working structure for your church. And this structure can help not only the worship team department, but even other departments. We want the best for the churches. I want, as a music director, I want the best for any pastor and worship team members. I'm always available, by the way, for any calls, for anyone who wants to reach out for help, because I'm a producer, I'm the director of Neotrack Media. So in these studios, we are able to empower people. We help pastors who want to find help that can help empower their worship teams.
You can give them just your number.
Yes.
If they want to reach out.
Yeah. So for any team, for any pastor who would want to find help and just to put their things together, you can reach to me on my number 0711732618. 0711732618. That is my number. You can call me, tell me what you need, where you need help, and we can come in and help you.
Okay.
Yep.
Kefa, thank you for coming over.
Yeah.
And I think we should get sometime next time and
Yes.
discuss about these issues about systems and other things in church.
Exactly.
And we can also discuss church structures so that we get to help someone.
Fantastic.
Just here online.
Yes.
My viewer, thank you for watching. I've been your host, Anthony Elam, the OGN Show. A show that we listen to your story and it gives us wisdom. And that's why we talk about wisdom for life. I guess you have gotten something. Just have a nice time. See you in the next show.